Hello and welcome to the Thane Heins Potential Difference YouTube channel. In this video today we're going to be talking about the ReGenX quantum motor and its ability to harness created energy and its ability to perform work, output mechanical power while consuming zero externally supplied input power. So basically what we have here are two motors. Oh, I should also mention in this video we're going to be talking about perpetual motion, everybody's favorite subject when talking about the ReGenX innovation. And we're going to be talking about, or just briefly, the energy source that is required to provide the energy that the quantum motor uses in order to perform work. And the work energy principle basically says that anytime you have an increase in kinetic energy or a decrease in the kinetic energy of a system, there has to be some form of energy in play in that system. So in the description box below the video, there'll be more information on the energy that's created at the subatomic level, the subatomic quantum photon energy that we're using in the ReGenX quantum motor. That's the energy required to perform the positive work. And then in the next video we'll be talking about the ReGenX generator and conventional generators. And conventional generators use the same created subatomic quantum photon energy to perform negative work. So the energy source that powers the ReGenX quantum motor comes from the charged particle, the electron, as it's spinning around the proton and neutron of the nucleus of the atom. It spins and rotates around the nucleus of the atom, and when it spins, it creates electromagnetic field energy, and that energy is externalized around a current-bearing wire in conventional generators, and that's the energy required to perform the negative work. And in the ReGenX quantum motor, we're harnessing that energy to perform positive work. So, motor rule number one. Motor rule number one says that you cannot have a speed increase, system acceleration, a kinetic energy increase, positive work being performed in your motor without energy input. And so what we're going to see in this demo is we're going to see what input increase is required to be supplied to this motor in order to increase the RPM of the system by 165 RPM. And the third video in this series will be calculating the increase in the rotational kinetic energy. So I'll be showing you guys how to calculate rotational kinetic energy if you're interested in that. So motor rule number 1 basically says that you cannot increase the speed of this system, increase its kinetic energy once it's rotating at a certain speed to a higher kinetic energy or a higher speed without increasing the input. And motor rule number 1 also applies to this motor, and that this motor does not have the ability to increase the kinetic energy of this motor without, to increase the RPM, accelerate the system, increase the RPM of this motor without energy. And what we're going to do in this demo is we're going to demonstrate that the ReGenX quantum motor, if it was here, it absolutely does have the ability to increase the RPM of motor number 1 with no input. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our system up to 700 RPM, and then we're going to increase the speed to 865 RPM, and we're going to establish that indeed so our input to motor number 1 is 14 watts, and the speed is approximately 700 RPM. Now, if I want to increase the speed of the system to 865 RPM, according to the currently accepted laws of physics, I have to increase the power, the input, the electrical input to this motor so that the speed will go up. And indeed, that is the case. Now, something that is absolutely impossible to do in this current configuration is to use motor number 2 to increase the speed of motor number 1 without putting any electric input power into motor number 2. And that's basically what we're going to be demonstrating with the ReGenX quantum motor. So the new motor rule says that the ReGenX quantum motor has the ability to increase the speed of the system without any externally supplied energy input. And again, the energy that we're harnessing in order to increase the speed of the system is the created subatomic quantum photon energy. So we're going to collect this data in real time. And again, the second video will be talking about the ReGenX generator. Maybe it should be called the ReGenX quantum generator. And then in the third video, we'll be calculating the increase in rotational kinetic energy. Rotational equilibrium at 3,338 RPM. Motor number 1 is consuming 560 watts. And now we're going to increase the speed of the system while harnessing electron energy that's created at the subatomic level. So back to rotational equilibrium again. RPM, 560 watts to the prime mover, or motor number one, and we're going to increase the speed to 3,485 RPM, an increase of 147 RPM without any externally supplied input power. So the ReGenX quantum motor is the world's first electric motor that is capable of performing positive work, outputting mechanical energy, increasing the speed, increasing the kinetic energy of a system, accelerating a system, performing positive work, without requiring any external input energy. The ReGenX quantum motor also operates at infinite efficiency in that no additional electric input is required. In fact, the ReGenX quantum motor used 210 less watts to motor number one when it was operating at 3,485 RPM than it was using when it was operating at 3,338 RPM. So if we compare that to the existing or old, now obsolete motor function, in order to increase the RPM of this motor, we had to increase the input to this motor, and the efficiency of this motor is less than 100%. And what we can't do, certainly can't do with existing motor technology, is use motor number two, which is here, in order to accelerate motor number one while reducing the consumption of motor number one. Basically almost cutting the consumption of motor number one in half. So I promised that I would talk about perpetual motion. So let's do that. Here's Electric Circuits and Machines textbook. The makeup of an atom may be described in a simplified way, likening it to a miniature solar system. The core of the atom, corresponding to the sun in the solar system, is called the nucleus. The nucleus is formed of subatomic particles called protons and neutrons surrounding the nucleus in a state of perpetual motion. The author uses the term continual motion, just so nobody gets any weird ideas. In a state of perpetual motion, similar to the orbiting of the planets around the sun, are other subatomic particles called electrons. So, in a state of perpetual motion, electrons are orbiting the nucleus of the atom, and this makes up the structure of the universe. So the next time some crusty old professor tells you that perpetual motion is not possible, you can tell him that perpetual motion is the basis of the structure of the universe, and without perpetual motion, nothing exists. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and stay tuned for the ReGenX quantum generator. Cheers for now.